Episode 2. Jon struggles with Ghost and Jorah from Castle Dreadfort. Lord Royce helps everyone to escape. Dreadfort is given up and Jon sees the castle disappear in the blizzard/fog. They all flee in the direction of Winterfell. They animate a village which is near to escape. Some citizens join Jon in the fight, but many farmers die because they cannot fight properly. Brian flees out of Winterfell in mourning. She leaves Bran out of fear and is therefore ashamed. Dany meets Tyrion, Sam, Gilly and her son, Varys and Podrick. Together they fight against a White Walker with hundreds of whites. Dany rides on Drogon. With Rhaegal they burn many of the undead. The White Walker's remains untouched by the dragon fire. In the fight against White Walkers, Sam calls to the soldiers, "You can only kill them with dragon glass. Or maybe with Valyrian steel, but I guess you don't have any." Arya throws her Valyrian dagger to Grey Worm and he kills the White Walkers. All whites disintegrate. Arya asks Sam how he knew this with the Valyrian steel. Sam answers from Jon. A larger army is slowly approaching in the distance. Dany says they ride back to Winterfell to meet Jon there and beat the enemy together. Controversy with Tyrion starts. Dany prevents and puts her decision through. Tyrion says they have to wait for the Dothraki. Dany gets angry and says, "Do you want the North to fall and Jon with him?" Tyrion says nothing. Edmure Tully is with his wife and child in Riverrun. His wife wants to persuade Edmure to help in the Great War. Edmure answers that it's pointless, because the wars will never stop. Whether it's the Lannisters, Boltons, Greyjoy or the dead, it will never end. The fleeing whore hears an army riding. She is afraid and the sounds of the unknown army are getting louder. She is getting more and more scared. Then she sees Jon's army and shows relief. Then she sees her pursuers further back. Jon flees with his men in front of the army of the dead. They ride together to Winterfell and see Drogon flying in the distance. He spits fire and Jon reacts in shock. Jorah shouts, "Has the army of the dead already reached Winterfell?" The whore joins the soldier, sees the dragon, and roars, "Why are we riding to the damn dragon?" Jon meets with troops on Dany's army. Together they form up against the coming army of the Night King. The Night King flies around Winterfell with the ice dragon. He spits fire on the Dany troops who are forming around Winterfell. Jon sees Tyrion with Grey Worm in the distance. Jon says, "Tyrion is here. They must have evacuated Winterfell." Jon and his troops passes Winterfell and meet Dany. Jon learns that Arya escaped but Sansa and Bran could still be in Winterfell. Together they prepare for the attack of the enemy, but the whites form inside and around Winterfell. Tyrion realizes that the Night King is much more dangerous than initially thought. They fight but do not achieve anything. Lord Serwyn dies and Lyanna Mormont is escorted south. Jon desperately says, "We need to rescue Sansa and Bran." Podrick says, "If it was true what Bran said, he's too important to lose." Tormund shouts, "If he's not already dead." The Stark girl is definitely dead. Tyrion looks at him stressed and points to Jon. He snaps and kills the whites. He goes back and yells at Tormund, "We have to save them. Everything is lost without Bran." "We Drogon's roar," interrupts Jon. Dany rides on Drogon and obstructs the ice dragon while attacking. Rhaegal lands at an open field near Jon. Jon sees something at the sight of Rhaegal and gets on his back. He flies to heaven and together they fight in the sky against the ice dragon. Podrick is rescued by the whore. The Dothraki come from the south but that does not help either. Rhaegal gets bitten and Jon lands with him. Tyrion runs with Tormund and Gendry to Jon. Tyrion persuades him to leave Winterfell with Bran and Sansa behind. Dany realizes that even her dragons are having trouble. She is flying south and landing behind her troops. Together they flee south. Arya and the Hound ride a long distance from each other further south and see a rider riding north. Bran comes from the south and rides towards Jon. He warns everyone of the Golden Company on Moat Cailin. Lord Marndaly tells Jon we can go to White Harbour. The ships of Queen Daenerys are there too. Jon decides new meeting place, White Harbour, and from there they go with the ships to the Eyrie. Tyrion persuades Jon to go without Arya because she is too far away and now he must take no more risk. Hound reaches Arya. He asks her what she is doing. She says she is certain that the Lannister armies are somewhere south of Winterfell waiting for the armies of the north. Arya and Hound are traded by White Walkers and dead. Nymeria rescues her with pack of wolves. Arya kills the White Walker in a long fight with the help of Hound and Nymeria. For this she uses her dagger of Valyrian steel. Hound complains about winning over the White Walker and says because of these buggers all die away. Beric can pray as much as he can. Not even a god can help here. Arya decides to travel to King's Landing to keep control over Cersei and her armies. Arya is certain that Cersei will fall them in the back by the first opportunity. Hound says that she should face the truth instead of running away to kill people who are thousands of miles away. Arya reacts angry. Hound says angry, face it, girl. Your family is dead. Your fucking home is under siege or lost. We could have helped them with this dragon bitch, but you wanted to run away. Arya gets more angry and fights the Hound. He doesn't want to kill her, but fight to stop her. He can't, because she dodges nearly every swing of his sword. She manages to cut his hand, then the Hound drops his sword. Arya threatens him with the dagger. He fights back. Arya can dodge his attacks, then she manages to get him on the ground. He is impressed. Arya takes needle and point it on him. Nymeria and the pack of wolves had surrounded the area where they fought. The Hound locks around him and say fine. We kill the queen. Arya puts back her weapons and the Hound stands up. Euron lays with gold. Comp. On the eastern coast at the neck. A sea storm rages. The commander tells Euron he should travel back to his queen, the gold. Comp. Will do that alone. Commander orders his troops to gather in Moat Cailin. Euron's men are preparing to start his ship. Many are not yet on board as they want to store new supplies for the passage to King's Landing. Smaller greyish ship rams alone in Euron's ship. Theon's men capture it and free Theon and Yara. Theon turns to Euron, gets packed. Yara wants to save him. Theon frees himself but is wounded at arm. Theon protects Yara by catching an axe with his body. Yara then hits Euron to the ground and Theon's men take Theon on their own ship. In escape, Theon says in Yara's arms that he cannot make up for his mistakes, but at least he can help the people he has deceived. Then Theon dies in her arms. Yara lays him down, takes command of the ship and flees from Euron in the storm. Euron says they should finally go. A messenger arrives and shouts to the people Winterfell has fallen. Euron changes plan and says they travel directly to the Queen. The commander of the Gold. Comp. Looks very serious after experiencing the news and exclaims to his soldiers, before us are armies from Northmen, Unsullied and Dothraki. If they fail, the real enemy comes, so do not underestimate the enemy. Cersei orders to wait an attack on Winterfell as she no longer trusts Jaime with his troops. Maester Qyburn asks her what to do with Jaime if he betrays her. Cersei answers Jaime has to be captured. Maester Coburn prepares the letter and a raven. Jon and Dany are preparing for departure with allies of White Harbor. Podrick helps some escaping citizens onto the ship. He helps the escaped whore, she thanks and says I'm Sarah. Podrick is impressed. Brian confesses to Jon that she could not save Sansa anymore. Jon looks disappointed and sad in the sky. Dany holds Jon's hand and she tells him that she is sorry. Jon says it will continue if they do nothing. Jon says, we'll go to the Eyrie right away and collect all the troops there. We're building a defense that even a dead dragon cannot destroy. Brian questions Jon for leaving behind Arya. Jon argues with her since Brian has left Sansa and Bran behind, though that was her only job. Jon has to take care of all his people. Brian says she rides for Arya and find her. Tormund reacts horrified, he follows Brian to help her. Jon says they need every man here, Podrick agrees and stays with Jon. Tormund answers proudly that he has never sworn an oath to Jon and he is free. Jon approves of it. Daenerys touches her stomach and tells Jon that she has a good feeling and thinks she sees her again. Brian asks Tormund why he follows her. Tormund says, I almost died beyond the wall. And right now, when I thought I was dying, all I could think about was one. You. Brian looks slightly outraged. Tormund speaks playfully to Brian on her oath and that she obviously has broken it. Brian tells Tormund that she's doing this for the oath and to save at least the last child of Catelyn Stark. She says that he has no idea how she feels. Tormund answers that he lost his daughter. Brian falls silent and gets on horseback. Tormund follows her with his horse. Yam leads the Lannisters' armies north and shouts to all the Golden Company is not our ally, your queen wants to do anything to stay in power, so there's a chance she might want to attack the armies of the north and armies from the Targaryen girl. In the north we have to help them and, if necessary, fight the Golden Company. His soldiers roar Jaime in agreement. Mira Reed tries to persuade her father in Greywater Watch that she joins forces with the king in the north. Howland Reed says thoughtfully he does not trust this Jon Snow. A messenger says the Lannister forces moves north. Howland admits that even the Lannister help in the Great War. Mira hears Bran's voice and follows the sound in a next room. Mira sees no one but hears Bran again saying Mira. She calls him and asks if he is really here. Bran says no. He tells her that it looks bad and Winterfell has fallen. Mira has to flee with her family. Mira asks Bran where he is. Bran responds in Winterfell. Night King lands with Ice Dragon at the Godstree. He dismounts and goes to the weirwood tree, where Bran is waiting for him. The Ice Dragon roars. The Night King goes to Bran, grabs his arm and presses his hand on the weirwood tree. With his other hand, the Night King also touches the weirwood tree and puts Bran into a vision. Night King goes with Bran into a shared vision. There, Bran asks him about his motivations. He does not answer. They stand in the forest where both see their real bodies. Bran asks him why he wants to kill everyone. No answer. Bran asks him why he killed the last three-eyed raven. The forest becomes a hall. The royal hall in King's Landing can be seen. Bran sees the Mad King. He looks old and unkempt. Bran asks the Night King what that has to do with the three-eyed raven. The Night King looks next to the throne. Bran looks closer and begins to see a shadow. He forms to the younger three-eyed raven. Bran looks at three-eyed raven and goes closer to it. He asks what this is supposed to be. He hears the voice of the three-eyed raven, "You have to kill the enemies in the north." The three-eyed raven says the White Walkers are coming. The Mad King starts silently to say something. Enemies in the north. Bran reacts slightly surprised. The three-eyed raven says you have to kill them with fire. The Mad King says fire. Three-eyed raven says you must help the free folk. Mad King a little louder, burn. Three-eyed raven says burn the wall, burn the enemies, burn the Night King. The Mad King reacts shocked after the last word. He mumbles, burn the wall. Bran tries to intervene and says, no, stop that. Because of you my uncle and my grandfather are dying. Bran stops, looks at the Night King and says, I am your prisoner. Why do you have that kind of power? The Night King looks up at the Mad King. The Mad King starts to speak louder. Burn them. Burn them all. Bran says a bit depressing, so that's why he warned me about it. He knew it from his own experience. Night King and Bran are standing on a hill. Bran recognizes Mort Kalin. Bran asks what the Night King wants to tell him. Jaime meets Mort Kalin with Lannister's armies. He sees the Golden Company around the castle setting up their camps. Jaime says this is a defense formation. Then he sees a scorpion attached to the wall. Jaime calls on his army. My sister did not lie, she wants to fight all the lords and their armies in the north. The real enemy behind the wall is no intrigue. Let's end this here and now. Battle begins. Jaime takes the lead in this battle through the surprise moment. Then the commander skillfully encircled the Lannister armies at the castle and then trample everything with war elephants from two sides. Jaime is with a small troop on the castle and fights guards of the commander, but is captured. Bran looks at everything and says, I understand what you want to tell me. People always betray each other. Not you. But do not think that's why we're easier to beat. We are many lords who think and act differently. To destroy us you have to kill every single person. We only have to kill you. We may not fight together, but we will be enough to kill you. To kill all of you. Then the Night King sees directly in Bran's eyes.